Hello and welcome to our new Pavelka series, Living Life, with real people and real stories. This series is a window into the human experience. It's about where we've been, where we are, but I think most importantly, where we are going. This is a great opportunity for us all to step back and reassess or redefine how well-being shows up in our everyday lives. So I hope that you can sit back, listen, learn, and connect. So I've known Ginnie for quite a few years. She's one of those people that has a can-do attitude. She loves her family, she loves her friends, and she had a job that she really enjoyed. But then all of a sudden, COVID came, and all of that changed. She found herself unemployed, but also away from all of those friends and family that she loved so much.
It was a challenge because I had work, even though I worked for the last 3 years up until last March at home remotely. I had a schedule. I got up, I did my things, the dog and whatever, my husband left, and I did my work for 8 hours. And then it was, well, I have nothing to do, besides clean my house and clean the yard and do all these other things. And then there were many weeks and months where I can tell you that I laid on the couch and watched Netflix and ate and cried and ate and did nothing. And it was like, God, is this how my life is going to be? And not being able to, see my friends or my family. My kids don't live here, so they weren't even coming over as well, because early on, we didn't know what was going on. It was tough. One of our good friends there, they lost their father, and the father-in-law. And, it took us a lot to go to the funeral because we haven't been with a lot of people, but we had to go. We were friends for 35 years. But it was weird not being able to embrace them,
There's something about, that human to human connection, and not just through conversation, but through embrace. And I think that, I've noticed that as well, as just the impact that it's had on how I feel about relationships, how I even feel about myself, right? It directly relates back to just, my feeling about life even, right? Not being able to see family, not being able to embrace family. So let me ask you this, there's, I can relate to a lot of the struggles, and you've mentioned a few there. What is it that you've done differently, right? There's that kind of like struggle solution moment. Is there anything that comes up for you that you identify as a new behavior?
At the gym, you had the machines or whatever. Here, I'm on tile floor. So I found, a couple of different YouTube videos that I did, and just to get going a little bit. And I started actually like 8 weeks ago. Every day I do 20, 25 minutes of some type of moderate, walking or, using the free weights and getting that together. I got my husband out walking. He's a diabetic. So, we go out at night. We've been in the rain, with the umbrellas. Like, no, we're not missing tonight just because it's drizzling. It's Florida. It's going to stop. I told Leslie I wasn't really about the numbers, which I'm not, but, everybody wants to see their success. And in the last 2 months, I've dropped like 25 pounds because, and my mind feels much better. Like my whole body feels much better. My mind feels much better. It's not, it's great that I lost weight, but it's more about confidence and self-esteem. I don't feel so like I'm just gonna lay around and just cry and stuff. I wake up every day like, I gotta work out and I gotta get all my food, so I'm eating right and trying to read and do different things every day, trying to find a different YouTube video to watch on whatever. Each of my, like you said, each of my morning posts, I try to find something for myself that's inspirational, and maybe along the line I help somebody else, and I do get a lot of messages that say, wow, that really hit me, thank you, I needed that.
Trying to get back into shape. I'm in the garage sweating like crazy, and time for lunch, a little late, but anyway, I hope everyone is having a great day.
Yeah,
and it goes a long way, just the little tiniest thing that you can do for somebody. You don't think it's the best, and that's the mask is really what I think is missing and lacking for our lives.
Yeah, and I think, what I loved about, when you were focusing on your routine is there was no program. There's no one program. It was you kind of finding your way and figuring out what worked for you. It wasn't strict or regimented. It was just, I need to do something every day. I need to change some eating habits. And that was the plan, right? And I think that's a really important message for people to hear is, it doesn't take a diet or an exercise program. It just takes you kind of finding what works for you, and that being a baseline, a nice baseline for life. Or another thing you brought up though, which I think is really key, is you try to do something every day that helps another person through a post, something you hear, something you see, that'll impact the life of another human being. And these kind of things go unnoticed, right? I think whenever we're saying like, okay, I need to make some changes for myself, it's very me. I'm going to, and it can come across as self-centered or selfish, and it is at the end of the day, and nothing's wrong with that. We don't think about the other side of it, or the other part of that, which is by me helping myself, I get to gift something to the world, right? Like by me reading an inspirational quote, keeping it for myself is selfish. Sharing it with the world is selfless, right? It's an act of service. No different than that smile that you gift to another person.
Exactly.
Which is important. I think Ginny's positivity and optimistic mindset really helped her get through, those moments of isolation. What I also love is that she used her own experience, and her own, I guess, natural ability to be optimistic and positive as an opportunity to impact the lives of others. Now, what has that turned into? A new job. So her whole life has changed due to this struggle she was presented with during COVID. And now she's found purpose, which I think is fantastic.
Which is kind of funny because, I've been out of work for a year and I've applied to so many. And the one that I just actually accepted yesterday is for, it's like a customer service engagement specialist, which is for behavioral therapy.
Really?
Program. So basically,
amazing.
People will, you'll be either calling in or we're calling out, and you're going to call them and say, your insurance company has this 8-week program. Is there something I can help you with? And pretty much, people that are having issues and struggles. And I think, there was another position which was travel, and it was like, that one really doesn't sound as something that I could do more to help people. It's basically life is about helping others. I think the lightness of it. You just you can't always think about yourself, but you also need to think about yourself. You need to take time for yourself every day, especially people with younger kids. When my kids were small, mine are 24 and 26, there were days or weeks and I did nothing for myself. Oh, I can't go out. I got to stay here. I got to be with them. And it takes a toll.
Yeah. And I think I love that you had two options and you went for the one that was going to have more meaning for you. And I think that, I think there's obviously social capital has been a thing for a long time, like the currency through.
Yeah. I mean, it's not paying the greatest, but whatever,
but then there's this other currency. And I think it's attached to purpose or meaning. And
actually in my interviews with this company, they asked about the strengths, and mine was verbal communication, listening, and compassion. And they were like, most people may have said something else, and I was like, no, I like to help people. I like to, they're helping me as I'm helping them.
Yeah, so, it's a give and take for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So. Amazing.
Well, Ginnie, I think we connected a long time ago, 2014. It's just really good to kind of hear the journey that you've been on and just have a real life kind of perspective, as a mom, as a person that has, that has lost something during COVID, but found a way to get it back, but in a different way, i.e., your work.
Yeah.
And also go in such a different direction and be able to really give back in a different way. So. And also take care of yourself in the process, which, 25 pounds, with a routine that you've created for yourself is pretty impressive. So
I think so,
No, it is. Don't think, own it. Definitely.